I'm Shane Nyland, and my co host is Blake Musser. And these stories you're about to hear are from Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Division, about the events surrounding and directly from the mouths of the people who were in Ramadi 2004. Great. Let's tell everybody who you are and who you were with in 2004.
My name is Jason Mosel, also known as Mosey. In 2004, I was with MAP 2 in Ramadi, and I think I was a Lance Corporal at that point, 0352 tow gunner. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I remember too. I remember you being a Lance Corporal. Whose truck were you in at the time? Who all was it? It was Randall. Randall and who else?
Randall Newmeyer was the driver. Trying to remember who the fuck was in the back seats. I want to say Miranda, but I can't remember if he was or not. I just remember Randall and Newmeyer, maybe Webster. No,
I feel like Webster mostly rode with Jordan, and then I feel like Miranda drove most of the time, not always, but with Morris and the gun and Cohen and all them.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know if maybe you didn't have another person in your truck. You may not have either. At least not for most of it. Or if you did have anybody, you might have had Travis Day for a little while, one of our combat replacement guys.
That's right. We did have him. I'm just trying to remember because I remember driving up from Kuwait. We had a full truck, but I can't remember for the fucking life of me who was in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all right. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Wherever you want to start, you tell me.
Yeah. I mean, fucking Christ. Let's go back in history, man. So I think one of the most wild things, when thinking back to that time, especially now being 40, like how fucking young we all were. But especially like the group of us that came in right before 2-4 went to Ramadi it's fucking crazy to think about. Like, we got to the battalion, I want to say in like January of 2004, I think, somewhere around that time frame.
Yeah.
And like summer before, we like all of us were in fucking high school. And then it's like, okay, here's your new battalion. You're shipping out next month. You're going to Kuwait and you're going to go to Ramadi. And, you're going to fucking just hand out some cash. It's a peacekeeping mission. And like, they didn't give us any fucking tow missiles, very little 50 cal, no Mark 19, very little 240 ammo, those stupid fucking half doors. It's fucking wild to think about. And then, we basically, like when we came to the battalion, I don't really remember much of any like training with you guys. It was very, very little training before we actually just fucking shipped out. I think
if I remember correctly, you tell me, but I'm pretty sure I remember you showed up and like 2 days later we went to March Air Force Base. You went to the March Air Force Base training.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was your training package. You got the 1 week at March Air Force Base or whatever it was.
Yep. Yeah, with the only thing that actually stands out from like when we got to the battalion to when we left was like doing fucking Chinese field days at the barracks. And I remembered like it was Morris and Newmeyer fucking lowering their shit from the top balcony with 550 board. Trying to get down, like that shit stands out in my fucking head more than any of the trainings or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we did the March Air Force Base thing, but we just basically jumped on the fucking plane and headed to Stockton. How'd that go? It was such a fucked up trip because we were on that piece of shit, stopped in Maine to refuel. We leave Maine, and then we have to immediately land at fucking McGuire Air Force Base because a fucking engine went out or whatever the fuck. We were stuck there for a weekend, and then we took off. And then I think as we were coming over like England or Europe or something like that, they came across and they said, yep, we dumped all our fuel, so we're coasting into fucking Germany and fucking got in there. We didn't know how long we were going to be stuck there. And I don't think we were there for that long before we actually took off and landed in Kuwait from there. But that was a fucking wild ride. And then we get to Kuwait, and you guys may remember better than me, but I can't remember how long we were in Kuwait for, but we did some like, small amounts of like bullshit training in Kuwait too.
We didn't have much to train with. So yeah, it was a lot of table games more than anything else and talking about stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Staff Sergeant Coleman showing us like some fucking black belt McMap moves. And I remember one thing that sticks out to me too was when he was teaching us some shit and he called me up and he would like shake my hands and I went to go shake his hand and he did something to my fucking thumb where like he bent it back to touch my fucking elbow and dropped me quickly. But like that was really it for training. And then it's like, man, that shit happened so fast and furious. We just like jumped in the fucking Humvees and started heading north from there. And then, I can only remember like fueling up a handful of times, but we barely stopped on that way up too.
Yeah.
Where it was just pissing and. Go ahead.
No, that was it. I was gonna say it's just a long, slow convoy. We stopped one time to refuel in whatever that place was, Scania, and we stopped for several hours there because we had so many vehicles. I feel like it was overnight. It may not have been overnight, but we were there for like hours and hours.
Yeah. And fucking and then just pissing in those huge fucking water bottles and shitting in MRE bags and tossing them out. And
I forgot about.
Yeah.
And that was always fucking hilarious too, because then whoever the poor bitch was sitting in the back seat had their fucking half door, and so then the gunner would pour the piss bottle out, and that bitch would fucking rip right back into the Humvee, into the face of whoever was sitting in the back. Yeah. And then we had to do some fucking crafty shit too, because I vaguely remember where like we would be driving and we would throw the fucking like Humvee in neutral and everyone would like swap chairs. Like gunner would drop down, go in the back seat would move over. This guy would jump into the driver's seat goes into the passenger seat, and we just fucking rotated like that, which was fucking wild too. And then so yeah, however long that fucking took, and then we get up to Hurricane Point, where we're gonna spend the rest of the however many, like we probably got up there in February or so, March.
It was March 6th when we arrived at Hurricane Point. We left for Kuwait February 16th. We got there. Yeah. You said it was like an extra weekend. We probably got there February 19th ish.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we get to Hurricane Point and it was like, I mean, I sometimes like struggle to remember like the early times there, because like, I think we kind of just got right into it too. And we got to Hurricane Point. I don't think there wasn't really any downtime. There wasn't any like, hey, let's, train with these people or that people. Cause that, whoever it was, that National Guard group or whatever before us just fucking like puffed smoke and fucking took off.
Yep. We did a couple days of left seat, right seats. And that was literally me, Randall, Jordan, the lieutenant. I think Coleman went on a couple of them. But it was like 2 days, and we went out 2 or 3 times in a day, and they just showed us Route Michigan, really, mostly. They didn't show us much of anything else. And they pointed out some stuff as they were driving like 60 miles an hour, and then came back, and we came back to you guys, and we like opened up a map, and we were like, this is what we saw, 10% of the city. And that was it. Yeah, you're right. We kind of just got right into it. I remember specifically when we first got there, you actually became like a construction worker, essentially. You built all of our plumbing and half the shit for our hooch because it was half built.
Well, that was hilarious, too. I sometimes think about it because before we left, I remember, I think it may have been Coleman, asked the platoon, or we had to write down like any types of like trades or tricks or whatever that we knew, whether it was language or just whatever. And one thing I had written down was that I went to school to be a plumber, and everyone was like, you fucking idiot. Like, what the fuck are we going to need that for? Uh-huh. And we get there, and then all the hooches are half fucking done. So fucking Coleman and fucking Gunny Merarkey come up to me, and they're like, you put down you're a plumber, so you're fucking doing all the plumbing and everywhere. So I ended up having to fucking redo the plumbing
Uh-huh.
for like our hooch, and then where like the CO was, where like Meraki and all of them slept.
Yeah.
I remember doing that one too. Fuck, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking hilarious. That was like right in the beginning of shit.
Did you get supplies for that, or did you have to use what was there?
Well, I started to use what was there, and then Gunny came up to me and he was like, "What do you need?" And I told him, and then by like fucking a day or two later, however the fuck he did it, he got me what I needed.
Meraki magic. That's what. Yeah.
That's what that shit was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God.
I just remember we had a reliable working shower, and I was always like, this is the Mosel shower, because it always worked. It didn't work in every other hooch, but it did work in ours.
We definitely did not have good plumbing in our hooch.
Yeah.
No, because I remember I fixed ours because like whoever the fuck they had, the fucking Iraqis that they brought in, like they back pitched their drain pipes to the fixtures instead of to the actual drain. So I had to dig all those out and relay all those drainage pipes. And then they never soldered any of the fucking copper lines down from the storage tank that we had outside. So I just had to reroute all that shit too. And then once, I think it was Meraki that saw like what I did to our hooch, and he was like, "Yeah, get the fuck over here and do that to ours too." So those were the only two that I did it to, which is why yours sucked. So, and then like, yeah, but after that, like it was, man, I think sometimes I think about this where it was like from that beginning of March to like April 4th, like it was, I don't know, man, like we were kind of just doing our thing. Like we were starting to get into like just a routine. It felt like, you know, doing the missions, and every now and again you would hear things going on, you know, outside the wire. But for me personally, like shit didn't really kind of hit home until April 4th when Morris died. And that for me, like we can get into it later, but like that for me, that was like where shit really got real, unknowingly, like further on down the line after we got back and everything, where all those issues with me started from. But you know, rolling out to that one, from my memory, it was kind of like we were just going to go out on this, I think it was overnight, and it was a checkpoint. I think we were setting up right around Saddam's mosque, I want to say, or maybe
pretty close to it.
There.
Yeah. In between the Al-Haq mosque and the Saddam's mosque. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it was Jordan, Calais, and someone else went out on some, I forget what the fuck they were doing.
Matroka. Yeah. They were the Snap VCP that were hidden off in the corner. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And then, you know, over by my rig. So then you had Cohen with Morris, you know, that were kind of looking down the road. And then me and Newmeyer were kind of by this, these buildings or whatever. And, yeah, that it was like a typical day. And I like, one of the things, it's one thing that ate me up for a while was, you know, I remember that night where there was this old dude that came, and because we always had the kids around us, always looking for fucking candy or whatever. And then this old dude came and corralled them and took them all away. And I think it was because, like, for that first month, for our platoon, we didn't really experience that yet. So seeing it for the first time, it was kind of like, oh, they're going to bed or whatever the fuck they're doing. I don't know. And, you know, very soon after that was when Cohen, I think it was Cohen took over for Morris in the gun, or someone swapped out with Morris in the gun. And that's when the RPG came down the road and hit him. And then all fucking hell broke loose that night. And that night semi a blur to me. And I know, like, the night for me and the night for you are different, because you went with Morris back to Combat Outpost, and I think the rest of I can't remember if the whole platoon went to Combat Outpost, because I don't really remember. I remember the RPG coming down, hitting, Cohen coming around the corner, and then just fucking my memory goes kind of black after that. And then the only other thing I remember from that night was because in the rack I was on the top bunk, and I believe Morris was in the next one down below. Just looking down and not seeing him fucked me up like bad. And it was interesting though, because, and I've done a lot of like thinking about it, research on it and shit like that. Being at the time an 18-year-old kid, like from fucking Connecticut, then the worst thing that's ever happened to me at that time was, I don't know, stubbing my fucking toe or whatever. And now all of a sudden you can watch somebody die. And it was like not really understanding how to control emotions or feel emotions or anything like that. You just get rage. Like, I just remember being absolutely livid with rage. And so once April 6th kicked off, it was fucking on. Like, for me and possibly other the whole platoon or other people in the platoon, like once Coleman came out and said let's roll, like, man, I didn't give a fuck about much of anything. It was just like going out there to fuck some shit up because of like they took one of the guys from our platoon. Especially too, now that I say that, it was like the next day, I want to say, we all had to go back out there and to that spot. And I forget if we had to bring the battalion commander out there and LT had to go around and kind of talk about like what had happened or what, but like, it was just so enraging because like you still had the blood splatter on the ground and like all these fucking Iraqis around, and I was just overtaken with fucking anger. So then when April 6th came around, like it was super simple once that shit kicked off to just fucking lay rounds downrange to fucking anything. I mean, they gave us enough targets to shoot at, so that wasn't the hard thing, but man, that shit was fucking, that's where it really became a real life thing for me, was when that shit happened.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the few other guys I've talked to, we haven't talked in detail to anybody, or at least I haven't personally talked in detail to anybody about any of this shit in 20 years until now with this podcast. But it seems like everybody kind of had that same feeling. It's like, maybe you were just intending to kill a Marine, right, with that RPG, but you ended up like really waking up a beast as far as that went, because everybody was highly motivated. And on the day of April 6th, that's how I felt. I felt everybody was fighting with extreme vigor, and it was almost over the top. And I don't know what you remember of when we came back to Hurricane Point, but I remember sitting, I think it was next to you or at least one person down from you, and everyone was like, hell yeah, that was for Morris. Like, we fucking did it. Like, we did some shit. And everybody was like, but like not in everybody was dead quiet when everybody first started eating, because Gunny Merarkey went over and screamed at the guys at the chow hall and opened it up for us after we had been fighting for 8 straight hours basically and ran out of ammo. And they weren't going to give us any food. He got him to open it up, and we sat down, and then everybody was kind of like sitting there silently eating. And then I think it was Jordan was the first one to say anything. And then I think you were the second one, is why I remember this. And you were like, I shot a fucking toe into a house. Like, I was like, yeah, yeah, we collapsed a half a house. Fuck yeah, that was amazing.
That was actually on April 7th.
Was it?
It was. And the only reason I remember that is because on April 6th, we didn't have tow missiles yet.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
It wasn't until April 6th happened, and then we woke up on April 7th, and we had 16 tow missiles, and you were fucking like a 15-year-old schoolgirl giddy about having tow missiles.
Yeah.
And so was I. Like,
yeah.
And we just split them between your vehicle and my vehicle. We loaded the back up. We had as many Mark 19 rounds as we wanted on the 7th, and we loaded that bitch up. And that's when we went out on the 7th, and we were going down, and then fucking Randall told fucking Newmeyer to turn left onto fucking, what was the name of that road? Doesn't matter. It was where we got hit on the 6th.
Yep.
Everybody's screaming in my ear on the fucking comm to tell Randall to stop and not turn down the road, but we had already turned. I look up and I see that fucking RPG coming down the road. Mm-hmm. Everything goes into slow motion. I see that bitch spiraling down the road, and I'm like, I just think to myself, this is going to hurt. And it hits the grill of the vehicle, drops. And I vaguely remember hearing a 50 cal go off, and I looked at Geezer because he had the 50, because I thought he started to light shit up, but he wasn't firing yet. So I think what it turned out being was that Russian 50 cal that
was that Dishka. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And so that it jammed, and then that's when like we all just fucking pushed forward, and I think you were the first one to pull ahead, shoot your tow missile, and then you came back, and then there was 2 guys that were on top of a house that were firing RPGs at us. And I came across the comm, and I was like, I'm going to fire a tow at the house. And you were like, fuck it, your back glass is clear, just shoot the fucking thing. I let it loose, and then fucking Idle Hands himself, what's his name?
Captain Weiler. Yeah.
Comes up because he happened to be behind me, and my back blast blew his big ass over. And so he was all pissed off at me.
Uh-huh.
And then in the fucking, with everything happening, I did the most boot tow gunner thing ever. And instead of releasing the lever of the tow missile, I disarmed just the fucking, the arming lever.
Oh, yeah.
So the wire didn't cut. And so Matroka had to jump up. He tried to cut it with a knife and split his finger open. And fucking, it was so fucking just laughable now. And then yeah, I mean the 7th, like those 2 days fucking blurred together to me. Like, because and there's only these like sparks that I remember like that stick out. Like that whole thing sticks out, but then it's like darkness in my brain until for whatever reason fucking Weiler comes and throws a purple and a green smoke grenade, and we were all kind of like, is this motherfucker calling the Joker? Like, what the fuck is he doing? Like,
yeah.
And then I think that was probably the day when we came back of what you're talking about, because now that you bring it up, I remember getting back, and the people at the chow hall were like, yeah, we don't have any more chow, or we're closed, or some shit like that. Yeah. And we were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was wild, because then after that, like after April 6th and 7th, man, I mean, it was kind of just status quo, if you want to put it that way. Like I've tried to talk to people, or I've like people that have inquired to me, or like other podcasts or whatever, who've never been in a war or an area like that or whatever, don't grasp what I'm about to say. But I mean, it got to a point where that was just our fucking 9 to 5. Like, You'd wake up, you'd go to the smoke pit, you'd rip a butt, you'd fucking go do a mission, you come back, and I mean, it was kind of like, if you die, you die. It's just kind of comes with the territory type thing. It was just what you did. And there's another, I don't remember at what point in the deployment it was, but it was when Ship Boots and Bass came to the platoon.
Yep.
And it was like that first week, or maybe even like one of the first days they were here. And Anderson came out to the smoke pit where we were, and we were all just smoking. And then you hear the rockets and mortars go off, and you knew they were coming to us. And they just froze, and they're like, what do we do? And we were like, well, you fucking run and hope it doesn't hit you. And I remember, because that was the time I ran into the hooch, and I think that was where it hit close enough where it was either map 3 or map 1's hooch, and it peppered the side of their hooch. I don't remember which one it was, but it was that one. And then, but what's wild about it was that, like, then when it was done, we just went back out to the smoke pit and just continued to smoke, because what else is there to do? Like,
Right.
whatever. You know, you had the the fucking guy that was selling DVDs or whatever, and then you'd fucking see him pacing fucking shit off, and I think he got kicked off or whatever the fuck happened with that. But, you know, again, it was kind of just status quo. It was just like our 9 to 5 job from March till October was going out and doing that shit. And I mean, all throughout there, it's just wild to think back to, like, the little bits of, like, shit that we never had. And, like, you listen to all these fucking, like, Navy SEAL people, and, like, I was in Ramadi, Jocko, and all this fucking bullshit, and they're talking about all their fucking, like, gear that they had, and I'm like, we had fuck all nothing.
Yep.
Like, when we went up there, we had the 1/4-inch half doors. As a tow gunner, I didn't have a gunner turret, because you couldn't, because I had the tow behind me and the 240 in front of me.
Yep.
And so, like, it's just wild to think about, like, especially as we came into the marketplace. Like, Randall would tell me, like, Jason or Mosey, stand up and check for snipers. The fuck do you mean stand up and check for snipers? You mean stand up, and if Jason gets hit by a sniper, there's a sniper. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. You talk specifically about gear shortages. Do you remember what you took? Now, I'm only doing this kind of as a contrast. Do you remember what you took out before April 6th? Like, from basically like March 6th until April 6th, what did you leave the wire with versus what did you leave the wire with after the April 6th, 7th, and 10th?
I think the only difference for me was the amount of ammo that I brought. And basically, I think it got to a point before April 4th where I wouldn't even, I would load the 7.62 from the can into the gun, but I'd never rack it. After April 4th, there was always one in the chamber. There was always one in the chamber for my 9 and always one in the chamber for the 240. I never kept grenades on me, like physically on me, only because since I was in the gun and we got to the point where I would sit on the gunner strap, if I had to get up quickly, that grenade right here would always get caught on the turret. So I stopped wearing those and I just kept them down below. And I think, like, as a truck, we kept way more, by way more, I mean a box probably, but of like MREs and water. Because now all of a sudden it was like, oh fuck, we're like, it's more than likely that we're going to be out on this fucking thing for, 8 hours, 12 hours, 14, whatever the fuck. And so it was no longer of those like dumbass IED sweeps where, LT would come and be like, okay, we're going to leave the wire at fucking 0600. We're going to rip 90 down Michigan. We're going to turn over to Apple and fucking come up Nova. And then hopefully we'll get Chow back at fucking Junction City or whatever the fuck. Like, all of a sudden, like, those IED sweeps stopped because they were fucking retarded. And, like, we actually had missions, but because we kept getting, like, pop shots or, like, all this other shit done, we had more, like, water and more food because we never knew how long we would be out for.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting the things that have been written and other things about the Battle of Ramadi, and it always sounds to me like, oh, it was a couple of hours. And it's like, well, I don't know what it was for anybody else. I know for my platoon on the 6th, we were out for 7 to 8 hours the first day and almost 12 hours on the 7th. And I don't know how long the April 10th thing was, because April 10th was the first bug hunt. And I mean, that felt like all day. It felt like 16 hours. I have no idea how long it actually was, but it was all day, basically sun up to sundown. And yeah, that was the op tempo was extremely high, but also the op duration. Like, you weren't just getting pop shots, shooting back 5 minutes. You did a 30-minute skirmish and now you leave. It was like, no, this is sustained combat for days.
Yeah. And there was like, because there was one situation, and I'm trying to remember if it was, we were driving up Michigan, and I mean, since I was the lead Humvee, it was very rare that the lead Humvee ever got hit with an IED because of the technology at the time was either a trigger man with an actual detonator or a cell phone. So they would always wait until like the third or fourth so they got the spacing down. But this particular day, it was right in front of that fucking like apartment complex or whatever the fuck it was. Yeah. And it was one of those like ice shanty things that they had put 1x5 under. Oh, yeah. And they fucking lit that bitch off and ripped our Humvee, and that concussion just fucking lights out for me for I don't know how long. And then came to, and I just remember yelling down to Newmeyer to just keep fucking driving. But I don't remember if it was that time or if there was another time we were doing some like bullshit and someone did pop shots and then somebody was like, you know, okay, we got to go find them. Either way, it was like 140 fucking degrees out. And what turned out being like hours spent out there. And by the time we get back, it's everybody learning how to give each other IVs and just bleeding all over each other because we're so fucking hydrated.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I fucking remember like sitting in the smoke pit and like we're just stabbing each other trying to figure out how to give each other IVs because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. It's like, find a vein. Okay. And just fucking jab people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we only had one corpsman by that point too. So it was, you know, Bundy was trying to teach everybody and he was like, just put it in the vein. And you're like, I don't know what that means, but that's fine. Yeah.
So, and then you had like the stuff, like that one night that we had to take Ollie North out with us, which, do you remember that night?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, well, we did it twice at night, but you go with the one you remember.
Well, the one I remember was we get called. We were on night QRF and we got the call to go grab EOD from Junction City, and it was the BB-IED that was in the median down at the arches by the reservoir there. And we get down there, and when I tell this story to people, it's so funny because like that EOD crew, that Army EOD crew we had was like just lazy bags of shit. And so they always tried to make themselves out to be like more than they were. And so of course, because Ollie North is there with the camera crew, like they're spending so much fucking time and they take their stupid fucking robot out and they're explaining this whole thing and da-da-da. And I remember Ollie was standing next to our vehicle and we hear the mortars start to fire off. And he was just like, that's incoming. This is an ambush. And I was like, fuck. And we just like, I don't think the mortars hit close to us. I don't remember them hitting super close or anything like that. I mean,
it was within about 60, 70 yards. It's close enough to be like, if with an adjustment, they'd have hit us.
Yeah. I mean, close enough to shit your pants, obviously. But, so then like before the fucking like mortars were even done, that fucking EOD crew was packed the fuck up in their Humvee, like just hit it with the toe. So I think it was Coleman who was like, Mosey, hit it with the toe. And I was like, yes, but I feel like I'm way too close. And they were like, don't care, shoot. And of course, like before that, the only toe I had shot was on the 7th. And so I'm still green as shit. And so line up the fucking crosshairs on like center mass on this car.
On the night sight on a vehicle that's been bumping down the road. Like, people are not going to understand the level of technicality of this shot. Like, it's an impossible shot in the first place.
And I'll never forget it because I shoot it and the night optics get whited out from the back blast. And I had said in the back of my head, I'm like, you know, this car is probably like 200 or 300 yards away. Yeah. And so I won't even see, like the back blast is going to go away with the explosion is what I'm thinking in my head. So I fire, white out, and then it clears and I still see the missile going. And I'm like, fuck. And so it just fucking cleared the vehicle and just kept going down into some neighborhood and way the fuck far down. You just saw it hit something, and I was like, fuck, reload. We just took it out, reloaded it, and at that point, what I did is I took my crosshairs and aimed it down to the road, at the road, because what had happened was the toe coming out, the weight of the toe dropped the launch tube, which then it came back up to correct itself. Well, because we were so close, when it came up to correct itself, it cleared the vehicle. So I had to aim at the road so that when it came up to correct itself, it hit and then blew that bitch right up, and we packed up and left.
Yeah. And you were famous because that fucking shot was that was the opening sequence of Colonel North's war stories for every episode of 5, 6 seasons, whatever it was. It was that shot. Yeah, it was badass.
Yep. Yeah. And then afterwards, it was funny too, because like they kept me, after we got back, that crew kept me and Randall awake because they wanted to interview us.
Yeah.
So the whole platoon went to sleep or did whatever.
Yeah.
Me and Randall are standing over there, and they finally are doing the interview. They interview Randall, and then they're like, all right, we're done. And they just left. They never interviewed me. And I'm like, motherfuckers, I could have been asleep or whatever the fuck. Like, ugh. I didn't give a fuck about the fame. Like, I wasn't looking for fame or anything like that. I was just pissed at the fact that they wouldn't let me go back to go to sleep. I had to sit here, and then they didn't even fucking interview me.
Yep.
You telling that part of it reminds me of this, how absolutely jealous we were of sleep and chow. Nothing else. You could give me unholy hell as long as I could sleep when I wanted to, and you could give me some food when I wanted it. Other than that, use and abuse me.
Yep. I wanted a cigarette, and I wanted a drink, and then I was good.
Yeah, I mean, we would all fucking, like, when we would go on those IED sweeps, I mean, we would be like, oh, we're going to fucking Junction City to get the good chow. We're going over to Blue Diamond to get the good chow. Like, all that shit. Because all we would basically have at fucking Hurricane Point, or like if we ever stopped at Combat Outpost, was the MREs.
Yep. Yeah, those nasty
Hurricane
fucking
hockey pucks too. Yeah. Remember those hamburgers that were, god damn, those things were gross.
Yep. Yeah,
because I was a fucking boot, like I would just get fucking beefsteak and mushrooms, or the fucking, like, if it was an old box, I'd get the fucking Four Fingers of Death or whatever, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yep.
But
my favorite MRE one, though, I never ate it, but I can't remember. It was a grilled chicken, but underneath it what it said was mechanically separated, chunked and formed chicken with caramelized grill marks.
Mm-hmm. I do love that one. I also liked the Four Fingers of Death. I think I was the only person that liked it, but.
Well, and then if you were really good, if you got the jambalaya, and then you did some fucking trading to find the jalapeno cheese, and then you put that in the jambalaya, and then you had to trade someone else for the wheat bread, and then you would use the wheat bread to fucking scoop out the jambalaya that you put the jalapeno cheese in. Like, you got fucking crafty with that shit. And then I remember me and Ratsky would fucking make mortars out of the water bottles. So we would take the heaters and we would fill up the empty water bottles with the fucking fumes coming out of that, and then we would shoot the bottles at each other.
Yeah, that was my favorite. We figured out that the MRE heater gas was a hydrogen gas, so it was flammable, so you can make mortars out of the bottles. I love that shit. Make our own bottle rockets.
Yeah. Yep. Nope, that shit was fun. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like when we sit here and we think about like that whole time of being in Ramadi, like it becomes tricky for me in my mind after April 6th and 7th, like when we talk about these specific stories. If you were to be like, when was that? I'd be like, I have no fucking idea. Like, I could not like pinpoint a month, a day. You know, there's obviously certain things that had happened that are like burned into all of our brains, and we can recite the month, day, year, probably all the way down to the time and second. But some of these other things, man, I mean, that the rest of that fucking deployment just was like blended one day. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot like tell you, like when your rig got hit by the when we were pulling out and you drove over that mine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember what point of the deployment that was.
Yeah. It was after April. I don't know what day it was either, to be very fair. I have no idea.
And same with that, whoever the fucking idiot was who decided that it would be a good idea to have those fucking engineers go try to sweep the levee for IEDs with the goddamn metal detector.
Yep.
That was fucking stupid. Because that was another one where, like, we were the lead Humvee behind them. And I remember looking up and they had the metal detectors and they found something and they looked down, and the moment they looked down, the trigger man hit it and fucking boom. And fucking, they were lucky that thing was buried deep, because I'm pretty sure they both survived.
So me and Blake have talked about this multiple times. Neither of us know for sure, but as far as the last I had heard, they both survived with severe wounds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was severe wounds because you can see the bone sticking out of places. But like all that shit, man, it's like, I don't, and you know, again, still kind of super jaded, more jaded, not as jaded as like back then, but like you still hear the shit about like Fallujah this, Fallujah that, and you didn't hear fucking fuck all about Ramadi until fucking like Jocko started swinging his dick around about it. And by that point, they had fucking J-damned the goddamn marketplace. Like, they had all the fucking gear they needed. And what were we? We were a battalion with 80% fucking 18-year-olds in it that had 3 weeks to train to go to war.
Yep.
Fucking cool. Like, it sometimes bothers me, but I'm at the age now and I've grown up enough that I'm like, it fucking was what it was. Like, I don't know. I lose sleep, but definitely not over that.
Yeah. I don't know that any of us will ever get answers as far as that goes, but if you read enough of the flag officer publications and stuff like that and sort of infer as best you can, this was a new mission for the Marine Corps, and we were literally one of the first people doing this new mission. The Marines had never really held a city before like that, and they had no idea what we were walking into. The idea was that supposedly somehow, I don't know, by magic, the Iraqis are going to police themselves. I don't know what they thought. It wasn't that Iraq in 2004 was, or I guess in 2002, prior to our invasion, was not a civilized society, because they clearly were. When you drive through, like, there's
like southwest of the United States.
Yeah, it was a modern infrastructure. I never saw very many things that looked completely unfamiliar. And driving through most of Ramadi was like modern infrastructure, maybe even like a rural America look. But the idea that there was some form of self-governance that was going to pop up endogenously is crazy. Like it just wasn't going to happen. And so it was a perfect power vacuum for something bad to happen. And we happened to be there when the bad happened. And they learned their lesson, because right after we left, within months, that city was divided into 3 or 4 pieces. So that way 3 or 4 different battalions could cover it. One battalion wasn't even, they literally said in the publications that one battalion could not cover that size of an area. And I was like, well, that's interesting, because it did just happen for 7 straight months.
Yeah. But the thing too, like now, like looking back at it and after reading a bunch of shit and everything, the bullshit politics that was involved, like in that happened between like Fallujah and Ramadi and the contractors that were hung and burned.
Yep.
And so therefore Mattis sent 3 battalions to fucking a town that's not as big, both geographically and population wise, to Fallujah, so that fucking Bush can look like, you know, he's a good president or whatever the fuck. Like that whole political bullshit. It's like, you know, at the time I didn't really grasp it as a child, but then like growing up, reading and so on and so forth, it's fucking gross. Like that type of shit is like kind of what hinders a lot of the work that we were trying to do there.
Yeah.
It's actually very specifically why I ended up going into the career that I did. I remember very specifically while in Ramadi, being like, I am a dumbass that barely graduated from high school from the middle of nowhere. And I feel like I understand a little bit better how much we're causing our own problems here. And went back to, so that ended up my line of study. But unfortunately, like Nyland said, we were at the beginning part of something that we'd never done before, and we paid for it with our blood, sweat, and tears. If you like what you've heard, this is a multi-part episode. Make sure you listen to the rest of the story.